All right, we are back here on the program, and it's a pleasure to be joined by this man. He's got a number of big projects on the go. We're going to be discussing Checkpoint, which is out now, as well as another big project that he's going to have a significant role both in front and behind the scenes with. He is Bill Goldberg joining us. Bill, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. There's so much to discuss with you, and I want to start off with Checkpoint. It is a movie that is out now, and as well this movie Bauer, where you're going to be starring in it, as well as serving as a co-executive producer. So let's start there with co-executive producer. Is this the first time you're going to be in an executive producer capacity for a movie?
Yeah, it's my first foray into this latest adventure. I think it's a natural progression. I tend to give my input throughout each and every production, whether it be a television production or whether it be a big screen production. And at the end of the day, it just makes sense to segue into kind of a different responsibility, a different faction, different area of the entertainment world. It's exciting. It is. I've got a fairly decent Rolodex, and I've got some associations with some sponsors throughout the years that would definitely lend themselves favorably to increasing the value of a production. It's a more comfortable position.
You know, in both movies, certainly terrorism is a big theme of these movies. Are real world events, are they something that kind of shape, like a movie like Bauer, where you're putting your thoughts and your opinions realistically into a movie like that? How much is that shaped by what you are reading in the news, what is happening, and what the audience is experiencing on, sadly, a very consistent basis?
What's unfortunate is that, you have some people out there thinking as though that people put these productions together to capitalize on, what's in the now. But the reality is that what is in the now is just about the worst thing you could ever imagine happening. It's terrorism happening on our own soil. And at the end of the day, it is reality. It is what's going on, whether it's abroad or whether it's right next door. It's a huge threat, and it's on people's radar in that you can't escape it. Whether it be on the news or being related to somebody who is some way, shape, or form affected by it. Actually, at the end of the day, we're all affected by it. Mm-hmm. So, one thing that I do want to say, and it's a huge honor for me to play a member of the military. Whatever faction it is doesn't matter to me. It's a responsibility that you are bestowed as an actor to get all the details right, especially when I have so many of my friends, whether it be currently enlisted or whether they be veterans of various wars or confrontations. There is a standard to be upheld, and at the end of the day, that's the biggest issue I'm going to have with this is getting all the details right. To be able to entertain people with something that we put on the screen, whether it be the action or whether it be the story itself, that's one thing. But having my left hand in the proper position, holding a certain weapon, and the right verbiage used, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a perfectionist, and those little tiny details truly do mean a lot.
In a year like 2016, Bill, we are in an election year, and it almost seems that it's impossible to escape politics. And you're a guy that has a very big audience. And when you're out and you're promoting your various projects, I mean, how do you approach when political questions might come your way for movies such as this? Because politics is such a divisive topic where you're going to upset somebody with no matter what you say about it. How do you approach that kind of a topic such as politics where it's so hard to escape them?
It's impossible to escape it. Everything is shaped by politics these days. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't like to speak their mind because they don't like to be labeled. They fear sponsors. They fear backlash, whether it be social media, whether it be in person. Everybody feels the effect, unfortunately, these days of speaking the truth. And, what we're seeing in today's presidential debacle it's truly a sight to behold. I like to say that if I was an astronaut and I came down from a 10-year hiatus up in space and I saw what was going on just in the presidential race, I thought I'd land on Mars. To know that a guy that I sat across the desk from on a reality television show is now, the presumptive candidate, for the presidency, it is absolutely unbelievable to me. But he does bring up a lot of issues that the normal politician the normal politicians are absolutely abstained from touching on because they're worried about the vote. They're worried about being labeled. At the end of the day, this terrorism issue, once you bring that up, obviously gun control comes to mind. Obviously immigration comes to mind.
Yes.
And those are two things that should not be marred by any stretch of the imagination by politics. They should be approached by logic. And I will only touch on one issue, is that if you are deemed too much of a risk to be put on an airplane, then how in God's name can you be able to go out and legally purchase a weapon? To me, that's logic. At the end of the day, everything else can be the other issues, as far as ridiculousness, can be used on the multiplication table when using that instance for an example. I mean, what's going on now is it's crazy. So there is a responsibility, everything you say, everything you do, when you put a movie out like this, when you put movies out like this, when you put a series of movies out like this, at the end of the day, it is entertainment. It's what we do, what we did as wrestlers. It's purely entertainment. But you have to be very responsible when it comes to delicate social issues. And a lot of things that we touch on are delicate social issues. And but like I say, at the end of the day, we're playing characters. We all have responsibilities in the storytelling and in the depiction of the characters. But yes, it is something that I take into consideration, that it's at the forefront of every decision that we make.
Last weekend, Bellator held their event in St. Louis, and prior to that, they produced this tremendous one-hour special on the late Kevin Ferguson, Kimbo Slice. You were featured with your comments, and of course, going back to your days with Elite XC, you got to see firsthand the phenomenon that was Kimbo Slice. And Bill, it seems to a person that came in contact with Kimbo Slice, not a negative word to say about this man, who got to see very much different the persona of Kimbo Slice and who Kevin Ferguson was around his family, and just someone you couldn't help but have a respect for as he went into the sport and just became this giant phenomenon. What were your experiences getting to be around Kevin Ferguson during that time when he was at the top of his popularity?
Well, firstly, you're a very responsible journalist in that asking me that question. I've done, 20 to 30 interviews in the last 12 hours, and you're the first one to ask me about Kimbo. And a responsibility as we have as human beings is to inform the general public the true identity of these people that they put up on pedestals, because it does them justice. So it's funny because you mentioned the name Kevin Ferguson and Kimbo Slice. The first thing that comes to my mind, the first reaction that I have is of utmost joy. A huge smile comes to my face, and truly, I don't know of many human beings on the planet that give me that reaction when you tell me their name. He was an absolute joy, and I'll be honest, and that the only negative that I ever saw with Kimbo was that he was too nice to tell some of the people around him to get lost. Other than that, he was the I said it on Spike Special, but he's the antithesis of what people think, what people thought. He was the complete opposite of that, I want to rip your face off guy with the gold teeth and the scary looking shaved chest and, the overhand rights. And he wanted to devour you. But you take him out of that element, and I guarantee you, if he knocked the guy out on the street and turned around right after he saw the guy's face smash against the pavement and turned around and he saw a kid, he immediately would be able to change 100% and kick into, the Kimbo, let's go have fun with the kid mode. That's the kind of guy he was. The things that were important to him were the things that should be more important to everybody on this planet. And it's treating people with respect, treating people that came before you with respect, understanding that the kids are our future, and you got to take the time to be a positive influence on them. You look at Cena. Cena does the same thing, and that's why I love him so much. The guys that do that are the guys that are the special ones. Muhammad Ali, who we lost, a couple weeks ago, he was the same way, man. It's funny that you put, Kevin Ferguson and Muhammad Ali in the same sentence, but truly they were wonderful people who cared about other human beings. They weren't caught up in the BS of today's world, except for when it was a positive value for them as a character. But at the end of the day, they were just great people. And there are a lot of things that I would have liked to have changed in my life, and one of them was I wish I was in better shape when Kimbo and I went toe-to-toe with Kimbo, because I'd been off for like 6 months. I hadn't trained, I hadn't done a thing, but man, it would have been just so much more fun hanging with him. And I got a chance to go down and play around with King Mo and Dustin Poirier down at American Top Team. They were so nice to open up their arms when I went down there for an event, give me the facility, and man, I got to hang with Kimbo a little bit and Conan. And it's just Kimbo. He looked at me the first time we got to hang, and he called me his brother from another mother. It's funny because I take that to heart, man. It's something I'll always remember him by. And he was a joy, and he was a pioneer, and he's a testament to what Scott Coker has kind of based the difference in his promotion with other people's. He is a guy Kimbo is a guy that people didn't give a shit what his record was. They didn't care what his background was. They knew he was entertaining. They knew that once that bell sounded, he was going to throw down. And, it was like Tank, Tank in his day. It was the Melvin Manhoofs. It's apples to oranges, but, people don't care how many fights Melvin's won or lost. They just want to see him entertain people. Sakuraba back in the day, Vanderlei back in the day. People don't care. It's about entertainment. At the end of the day, there is a lot to be said for records and belts, but at the end of the day, once you close that cage, you throw all that crap out the window. Obviously, it works in your favor as far as a lot of things, but at the end of the day, everybody's got a fighting chance once that cage is closed. So that's I think one of the things that Kimbo was a pioneer in. Gary Shaw saw that back at Elite XC, and Showtime and Hirschman and all those guys. They saw the value in that, and it's not a circus show by any stretch of the imagination. Sometimes you look at the Dada 5000 thing, and it is what it is. People wanted to see it. They gave it to him. I don't even want to get into the repercussions of that fight, but at the end of the day, man, he was a pioneer, dude, and he was a very lovable guy, and I'm going to miss him tremendously.
Yeah, very, very well said. Before we wrap up, I would like to touch upon the deal you do have with 2K. First of all, Bill, in this day and age where secrets are very hard to be kept, were you amazed that everyone was able to keep this such a secret until that trailer played on Raw? Because I imagine the feedback you received was just insane to imagine.
Very overwhelming, man. It's a true honor to have anybody appreciate what you did, especially if it's 12 years removed from the last time you laced up the boots. Truly humbling, very honored, that anybody would remember and or care about what I did. And, I'm greatly appreciative of 2K to be extremely persistent to continually push me in front of the WWE for the last 10 years. And lo and behold, they finally okayed it.
So this has been years. Cool, this has been years. The negotiations have been going on.
Well, not on my side, but I think we have a very good relationship with 2K. I have for a long time, and they have offered me up as an option a number of times. May I put this as politically correct as possible? And it's been looked over a number of times, and therefore, this year it was not looked over, and lo and behold, here I am. As far as the anonymity of it and keeping it a secret, I think the only one coming close to blowing it was me, in a very innocent response to somebody's question of, hey, are you in WWE 2K17? And my only response, period, on any social media, and the only way I screwed up was, yes, I've heard that. No, excuse me, I've heard that rumor. That was it. That was it. Then that was a an acknowledgement that I'm in the game. It's So I guess if I acknowledge or make mention of anything associated with the WWE, then people are so flabbergasted by it that they have to believe that it's true. So, it was really cool how it was kept a secret. I knew nobody on their side would leak it by any stretch of the imagination. They're pros. And, it was tough, man. It was really tough for me to keep it a secret because my boy was very excited about it.
Well, I find it amazing, Bill, because you look at how well remembered you are, and it wasn't all that long ago the WWE put a DVD out on you, and it was one of their best-selling DVDs. They've also put these different compilations of matches on the network, and there was a statistic I read last week, it was the most watched of all the compilations. I mean, you are remembered so well, and to me, there is so much money to be made with Bill Goldberg. I think it just makes too much sense.
I thank you very much for the kind words, man. I greatly appreciate it. Just think, if I wouldn't have kicked Bret Hart in the head, then I'd have twice as many fans because you Canadian people would still like me.
I think Canada has gotten over an accident.
Well, I will forever go down in history as that being the biggest mistake of my entire life. So if there's people out there that are listening to this and have never heard me apologize before, I apologize profusely because God knows I put Bret Hart up on the pedestal where very few sit, and the last thing I would ever wish upon him was harm, especially by my hand. But it's a true honor. It really is, man. It's really cool. And hey, if there's anything in the future, man, you never know. You never know. But one thing's for sure, I'll be able to keep it anonymous if something does come about, because I've learned my lesson. Social media will kill you.
When was the last time you spoke to Vince McMahon? Was it all the way back in 2004? And do you remember that last conversation you had?
Man, I don't remember the conversation, but yes, it was in 2004. That was the last time I spoke with him. I don't believe either of us were happy at that time. But hey, man, we all make decisions, and we all act a little immature at points of our lives, and we regret it. And, hey, man, at the end of the day, we have robbed a lot of people of a lot of good entertainment. And, can we rehash it? Who knows? But if not, then, hey, at the end of the day, man, I am extremely thankful for all the people who I have entertained throughout the years, and I'm greatly appreciative because they put me where I am.
As well, if there were to be a match with Bill Goldberg, I mean, could there be anyone better to call it than Mauro Ranallo? I mean, if you were to say in 2007, you working a WrestleMania and Mauro Ranallo calling it, I mean, you would have called me just a fool.
Dude, I knew Mauro was destined to do this. We were in Pride, and I was commentating next to he and Boss Rudin one time, and then Mauro has been, this is his lifelong dream. You know that. And
yeah.
Anybody that lives in Canada, has followed his career, knows how passionate this guy is about professional wrestling. If you gave him the option to call any fight or match in the world, it'd be WrestleMania. I can guarantee you that is it. And, I have to appreciate it. I look at Mauro, and we were in production meetings. He'd always make references to wrestling, and he always wants to talk wrestling with you. He's a kid. It's just awesome to see. He is the best example of a lifelong wrestling fan. The passion that he has for it, man, it's just unparalleled. And I love Mauro to death, man. He's like a little brother to me, and I'm so happy for him that he's that he's accomplished his dream getting in there with the WWE commentating, man, because that's his calling. It truly is.
Well, there's a lot of anticipation for the video game. I maintain there's a lot of money to be made with a Bill Goldberg dream match scenario. But also want to let everyone know Checkpoint is out now. It is available. And Bauer, as Bill mentioned, they're going into pre-production in New Orleans. And when can we expect that one out, Bill?
Oh, God, I don't know, man. I don't know. We're starting production early September, right after my wife's birthday, and, we'll see how quick the turnaround is. The shoot schedule's, 2 to 3 months, and we'll see what the editors can do. So we'll get it out probably next summer, something like that.
A very busy man, and I want to thank you a lot, Bill, for allowing us some time here. It's a pleasure to catch up with you, and all the best of the many, many projects you have going on your plate, and we look forward to catching up again in the future.
You got it, John, and I would be remiss in not mentioning the fact that the only way that this interview happened is because of this wonderful social media thing we have called Twitter, because I had lost the conference line number, and the only way I was able to acquire it, ladies and gentlemen, and the only way that this interview actually took place is for me to follow him on Twitter and ask him what the call-in number was. So thank you very much, brother. It was a great time to be on the horn with you.
If this was 10 years ago, this interview would have been lost forever. But Bill, the technologically savvy Bill Goldberg was able to find me, and we made this interview happen. So it was my pleasure to have you, Bill, and thank you so much for joining us.
You got it, brother. Take care.
All right. Talk to you soon, Bill. Thank you.